Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how we successfully filled out Form I-129F for the K1 Visa Fiance petition. And in our case, we did everything right and didn't get any delays or issues with our form. So I'm gonna walk you through how we filled out the Form I-129F. So the first thing you need to do is go to the USCIS website and look for the Form I-129F. Make sure the link that shows up on your browser is this one, because this link comes from the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, and many of the links out there that are on blogs or different websites have outdated forms, so make sure to click on this link and on this form. And this is what's going to show up: the petition for the alien fiance. Remember, this form is going to be filled out by the American citizen and not the foreign fiance. First thing to check is the expiration date of the form. So today is February 5th, 2018, and the form expires in August of 2018, so we're good with that. All this top part will be filled out by the USCIS officer, so leave that blank and start here. So let's go to number 1. The alien registration number only applies for the citizens that went through a process of naturalization to become American. So in our case, we left that blank, but if you have a alien registration number, you just type it there. In our case, we left that blank, so left that blank. USCIS online account number, we left that blank too, and the US Social Security number of the American citizen. So whatever your number is, just type it. Select one box below to indicate the classification you are requesting for your beneficiary. So in our case, it was a K1 Fiance Visa. If you have a different case, if it's a K3, you would select this one. And if you're filing to classify your spouse as a K3, have you filled Form I-130? You will answer this with a yes or no. But like I said, we filled out for the K1 visa form, so we clicked on the 4A box. Your full name, full name of the American citizen. So whatever your name is, last name, given, and then your middle name. That's it. Other names used. Provide all other names you have ever used, including aliases, maiden name, and nicknames. If you need extra space, complete this section. Use the space provided in Part 8. So if you do have a different name than your current actual name, you would type it here. So in our case, we didn't have any other names, so we left that blank, 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 and blank. Your mailing address of the United States citizen. And care name of, in case the American citizen is living with someone else and the mailing address is under someone else's name, you would type their name here. But our case, it was same name, so in care name, street number, and name. So I'm just gonna put something random here. So 5th Avenue, apartment 4. It doesn't let me type here on the internet the form, but you would just write that down with your with a pen or something. City or town, New York. State, you select New York. NY. Zip code, I don't know the New York zip code, but you would just type down zip code. Province, same, whatever the province is. Postal code, and the country, United States. Is your current mailing address the same as your physical address? If it is, just type yes. If it's not, then type no. In our case, it was yes. If you answer no, provide your physical address, item numbers 9A, and 9H. For all of these like things that it says like Part 8 additional information, or here where it provide where the government wants more information about your answers, like What you're going to do is at the end of the form, you're just going to attach papers explaining how or why you have like a different address or a different name or like any additional information you want to explain to the government. Information about you. Your address history. Provide your physical address for the last 5 years, whether inside or outside the United States. Provide your current address first if it's different from your mailing address in item numbers 8A and 8I. If you need extra space to complete information, use the space provided in Part 8. So whatever the American citizens' addresses have been in the past 5 years, you just need to type them down here. If you've only lived in a place in one same place for your entire life, then you just type that address in the first box. So same again, it's not letting me type this in the computer, but you would just type down or write that down with a pen once you print it out. You write down the physical address where you lived. If you lived in a different one before, you would type it here. And then if you've lived in more than 2 places in the past 5 years, you will write that down in Part 8, additional information, at the end of the form. So let's go to your employment history. Provide your employment history for the last 5 years, whether inside or outside the United States. Provide your current employment first. If you need extra space to complete this section, use provided in Part 8, additional information. So your employer, whatever your employer is, let's say Vogue, street number 6th Avenue. Your apartment, you write it down with a pen. City, same again, New York. Zip code, you write it down. Province, New York. Country, United States. Occupation. Motto, whatever you want to write down. And your employment start date and finish. So whatever it is, I'm just going to type random numbers here to present. If you've had different jobs in the past 5 years, you write down the names of your employers in a chronological way. So from recent to older employers. If you've had more than 2 employers in the past 5 years, like I said, at the end of the form, you will write it down in Part 8. Part 1, information about you. So same 20A and 20B as part of the employer number 2. Our information. So the American citizen is a what? In our case, my fiance filled it out. So female, date of birth, 01/01/19. Marital status. Remember, the only people that are allowed to fill out this form are unmarried people. So if you're single, you would type single. If you're married, then you would type married, but your form is not going to get approved. If you're divorced, you just gotta show all the proof of your divorce. And if you're widowed, same. Like you would have to prove to show a document proving that your husband or wife is deceased. So make sure it's either single, divorced, or widowed, but it cannot be married, or your petition is not going to be approved. City, town, village of birth, whatever it is. Country of birth, United States. Information about your parents, so your parents' names here. Just type something. Maria. Name. Oh, last name. So I don't know, Clooney. Given name, Maria. So that's the mom. Then you type their date of birth. Female, country of birth, United States, city, I'm just going to type country of residence. So all the information about your parents. So second one, your dad in this case. So Middle name, if you have a middle name. Date of birth. Male, country of birth, United States. New York, country of residency, United States. Have you ever been previously married? This one, now it's a different question from the parents' information. So, have you ever been previously married? If the answer is yes, then you type yes. If the answer is no, then you click on no. In our case, it was no. If you answered yes to item number 37, provide the names of each spouse and the date that each prior marriage ended in item numbers 38A and 39. If you need extra space to complete this section, use the space provided in Part 8, additional information. So doesn't matter if you were married before, but you need to be divorced in order to apply and successfully get the K-1 visa. So if you were married before, just write down the name of your spouse. If you weren't married before, just leave that blank. In our case, we're going to leave that blank. Your citizenship information. You are a U.S. citizen through, and you have to select the box of whatever category you fit in. So in our case, my fiance was born in the United States. Have you obtained a certificate of naturalization or a certificate of citizenship in your own name? If it's yes, then you provide with more information in item number 41, 42A and 42C. So in our case, it was no. If you do have a number, then you just type it here, place of issuance, where you got your number from, and the date when it was given to you. Additional information. Have you ever filled out Form I-129F for any other beneficiary? If the answer is yes, you click on yes. If the answer is no, then you click on no. In our case, it was no. If you answer yes to item number 43, provide the responses to item 44 and 46 for each previous beneficiary. If you need to provide information for more than one beneficiary, use the space provided in Part 8, additional information. So alien number, family name, given name, middle name, date of filing. What action did the USCIS take on Form I-129F? So if you did file before for a I-129 form, you would put it down here in this box. If you didn't, then you will leave this blank. In our case, we're going to leave this blank. Do you have any children under 18 years of age? In our case, it was a no. If you answered yes, then you go on and complete these following questions. If you answer yes, provide the ages for your children under 18 of age in item numbers 49 and 49A and 49B. Provide the ages of the children under age. You write it down here. Provide all the U.S. states and foreign countries in which you have resided since your 18th birthday. So, same again, like whatever your information is, you would put it down here. In our case, like it was only one state, so it was easy. So, country, United States. Residence 2, again, if you provide all the U.S. states and foreign countries in which you have resided. So if it was only one country, then you would just leave this part blank and then go to part 2, information about your beneficiary. So this one now is talking about your fiance, the foreign citizen, very important. So the beneficiary, it would be me. So name, and middle name. I do not have a middle name, so I would just leave that blank. Alien registration number, so I didn't have an alien registration number, so I left that blank. U.S. Social Security number, then you leave that blank too. If you do have a U.S. Social Security number for any reason, like the foreign fiance, then you would just type that down. Date of birth, gender male, marital status, same. I have to be single. The foreign fiance needs to be single, divorced, or widowed. So wherever you were born, your birth, and country of citizenship, whatever your citizenship is. If you were born in Germany, you would just type Germany. If you were born in Greece, then you just type Greece. Make sure to be honest in this form. Any answers that don't match with whatever you're going to say later on in your interview will bring you trouble. So make sure to be always honest on this form. Other names used, like if your foreign fiance had any other different names, then you would just write down that here. So family name, given name, and middle name. Information about your beneficiary. So still information about the foreign citizen. Mailing address for your beneficiary. This is really important. Make sure to have this part of the form completely right, because this is where they are going to send out the forms after they get approved. After the K1 petition gets approved, they will send the forms with the instructions of the interview to this address. So really be careful with this form. And care of name, so it will be my name, the foreign fiance's name, street number, or whatever your address is. I'm just gonna make something up. 200 street, department. Then you would just type down the number, city, Mexico City, state. Because it's only American states here, I would just leave that blank. Zip code, whatever your zip code is. Province, Mexico, postal code, and country, Mexico. If you live in Thailand, then you would just write your foreign fiance's address here. If she lives in France, you would just type their France address here. So now, your beneficiary's address history. Provide your beneficiary's physical address for the last 5 years, whether inside or outside the United States. Provide your beneficiary's current address first if it's different from the mailing address and item numbers 11A and 11I. If you need extra space to complete this section, then use the space provided in Part 8. So, like the instructions say, if the address is different from the mailing address, then you would write down that here. If your foreign fiance has lived in different addresses in the past 5 years, then you would write down that here. So in our case, we're just going to leave that blank. So your beneficiary's employment history. So provide your employment history for the last 5 years, whether inside or outside the United States. Provide current employment first. If you need extra space to complete this section, use the space provided in Part 8. So your foreign fiance's employer, if your fiance is unemployed, then leave it blank. If your fiance has a job, however many jobs she or he had in the past 5 years, you have to write them down. So in my case, it was just one, so you would just write down your employer. Let's say, I'm gonna make something up. Facebook, whatever address, Happy Avenue, I don't know. Then you would just type that down. Mexico. Then the state you would leave it blank because it's only American states. Province, Mexico. Postal code. Mexico. Beneficiary's occupation. And then you would just write down the employment start date and the employment end date. If you have employment end date present, if you're still working there, if your foreign fiance is still working there, and here if your foreign fiance had more jobs in the past 5 years, you would just write down that here. So if you did have another job, you would have just written it here. Same as employer number 1, you just fill out this form. And remember, if you did work for more employers in the past 5 years, then you will write it down at the end of the form. Now, information about your beneficiary's parents. So now your foreign fiance's parents. Middle name, no middle name. Just make something up. Male. Mexico. Whatever your foreign fiance's parents are, you just write down their names here. The mom's name. last name first, date of birth, all information about your beneficiary. Has your beneficiary ever been previously married? So was your foreign fiance ever, has she or he have ever been married before? If the answer is yes, you just write down yes. If the answer is no, then you just type no. In our case, it was no. If you answered yes, then you just fill out the name of their previous spouses. So in our case, we left that blank, left this blank. Has your beneficiary ever been in the United States? In our case, I have. If you have, then you just type yes. If you haven't, then you just type no. If your beneficiary is currently in the United States, complete item numbers 38A and 38H. So this is just for foreign fiancés that are like studying in the US or working in the United States as they apply for this K1 visa. In our case, I the foreign fiance, was out the United States, so I'm just going to leave that blank. If you do live in the United States, then we just write down like whatever your status is. So if you were a visitor towards visa, then you just write down visitor. If you're a student, then you just type student. Then your I-94 arrival departure record number. This number, you can get it online on the USCIS website, so you would just type that down, your date of arrival. Date authorized, stay expire or will expire shown on form, so whatever the expiration date says on the form. Then your passport number, travel document, country of issuance, expiration date. Does your beneficiary have any children? Does your foreign fiance have any children? So in our case, it was no. All this, it was no too as well, because I was outside the United States. If you answer yes to item number 39, you need to provide the information of each child. So same as the United States citizen information, you just have to write down the names of your kids. If you have any kids, in our case it was no. Does this child? If you don't have any kids, then you just leave this blank. If the child does not reside with your beneficiary, provide the child's physical residence. So pretty straightforward. If your child lives in a different place, has a different residence than yours, you would just type it down here. Address in the United States where your beneficiary intends to live. So this would be the same address of where the United States citizen is living. So we would just go back. And it would be here, so 5th Avenue in New York. Fifth Avenue, apartment in New York. Daytime, telephone number, whatever telephone number the American citizen has, you would just type it down here. Your beneficiary's physical address abroad. This question can be confusing. This applies only if your fiance has a different physical address than the one you wrote down in this other box. So here, the address of your foreign fiance. This is where they're going to mail the packet, the K1 visa packet, once it's approved. So make sure if your fiance's living in a different address, or like it's like it can be like, let's say your fiance is from like Greece but is living in France right now, you would just type down the French address. If your fiance is from like Germany and she's living in Canada right now, you would just type down the address in Canada, because this is where they're going to send the papers of the K1 visa once it's approved. So make sure to pay a lot of attention in this box because it will be where they will send the forms. So in our case, it was same as here, 200th Street, Mexico City. Your daytime telephone number, or whatever your fiance's telephone number is. Your beneficiary's name, address in or his native alphabet. So what does that even mean? This means for those countries that had different alphabets that are not in Roman letters. So this would be like places like China, like Russia, Thailand, Greece, where they have like different like alphabets, and the mailing people can't find their address or like the names of how they're actually called. So you would just type down the name here, like with the letters and like different alphabet. So in our case, we just left that blank. If you do have a name and an address that is just written down in your specific language in your country, then you would just type that down here. But in our case, we left that blank. Information about your beneficiary continued. Is your fiancé related to you? Our case, it was no. Provide the nature and degree of relationship, for example, third cousin or maternal uncle. So no, we did not have any kind of relationship, so we would just leave that blank. Have you and your fiance met in person during the 2 years immediately before filing this petition? So yes, it is very important that you meet your fiance in person at least once in the past 2 years. If you have not met your fiance in the past 2 years, then your petition is probably going to get denied. If you answer yes to item number 53, describe the circumstances of your in-person meeting in item number 54. Attach evidence to demonstrate that you were in each other's physical presence during the required 2-year period. So whatever your meetup was, you would just explain how you guys met here. So the foreign fiance with the American citizen. So we met in Mexico City in October 2017. Whatever your case is, you just give the answer, explain to the officer how you guys met, and that will be okay. If you answered no, explain your reasons for requesting an exemption from the in-person meeting requirement in item number 54 and provide evidence that you should be exempt from this requirement. Refer to Part 2, item number 53 and 54 of the specific instruction sections for the instructions for additional information about the requirement to meet. If you need extra space to complete this section, use the space provided in Part 8. So what does this mean? This means that in a really extreme case of a country where because of religious practices or some crazy law in their country, they wouldn't be allowed to travel to the United States, or because of their religion, they don't allow people to meet before being married, then that could be an exemption. All the exemptions are listed on the instructions for Form I-129F. So make sure if your case is really extreme, to explain why you answered no, why you haven't met your fiance in person, and then you might be able to get a waiver for this requirement of the K-1 visa. In our case, we did meet before, we did meet in person during the 2 years, so we just explained how we did it. International marriage broker, IMB information. Did you meet your beneficiary through the services of international marriage broker? In our case, it was no. If you answered yes to item number 55, provide the IMB's contact information and website form below. In addition, attach a copy of the signed written consent form the IMB obtained from your beneficiary, authorizing your beneficiary's personal contact information to be released to you. So if you did go through an IMB, just write down the name of the IMB and all the details it's asking for you. Oh, I forgot. If you did meet your fiance online, you would just type that you met your fiance online. We met online. Make sure to not give or try to not give I've heard that if you are too vague about your answer in the in question number 54, then they might ask for more evidence and your petition might be delayed. So make sure you explain in this part of the form how you met and be really detailed about it. So 58, organization name of IMB. You would just type down the name, website of IMB, you just type down the name. So all the information about the marriage broker. In our case, we left that blank. And this one is really important. Consular processing information. Your beneficiary will apply for a visa abroad at the U.S. Embassy or the consulate at. So wherever your foreign fiance is living at, this is a place where he or she will be applying for the K1 visa once the petition is approved. So make sure to look at what consulates in your fiance's country are actually like giving out the K1 visas, because not all the embassies or consulates do the K1 visa. So really research about your own country and make sure that consulate is processing the K1 visas, because if it's not, then you're gonna have trouble. So in our case, I had to do it in Ciudad Juarez. Even though I'm from Mexico City, the embassy there did not work with the K1 visa. So even if I wanted, like, it was not possible. So I had to fly to Ciudad Juarez in Mexico. So make sure to check, if you live in Thailand, like make sure to check that the consulate in whatever city in Thailand you're living does K1 visas. If you live in Greece, like make sure that like city in Greece is working with the K1 visas, like approving K1 visas, or whatever your country is. You just have to like type down the city where you will be applying for the K1 visa, but be very careful on this part. It's super important. Part 3, other information. Criminal information. These criminal information questions must be answered if your records were sealed, cleared, or if anyone, including a judge, law enforcement officer, or attorney, told you that you no longer have a record. If you need extra space to complete this section, use the space provided in Part 8. So if you had any criminal information, just make sure to be honest and click on whatever answer is correct, because if you lie in this form, then you will have a lot of issues during the interview and it will probably be delayed or have like problems. So make sure to be really honest with this. So number 1, have you ever been subject to a temporary or permanent protection or restraining order? So in our case, it was no. Have you ever been arrested, convicted of any of the following crimes: domestic violence, sexual assault, all that stuff? Like in our case, it was no. If in your case, if it's yes, just make sure to like click on the yes button and just like make sure to like, maybe it was like a misunderstanding, like maybe like the case was solved, and as long as you're honest about it, like you won't be having like any like issues. Homicide, murder, manslaughter, rape. So in our case, it was no. 3 or more arrests. So it was no. If you were ever arrested or convicted of any of the specific crimes, you must submit certified copies of a court and police. So all that stuff. If you did have like troubles with the law, make sure to like attach all the evidence supporting that you were like free to go, or that the case was resolved. You have provided information about the conviction for a crime listed in item numbers 2A, 2C, and you were being better or subject to extreme cruelty. Time of your conviction, select the following. So whatever your case is, select the boxes if they apply to you. In our case, it didn't, so we just left that blank. Have you ever been arrested? So no. If the answer to item number for A is yes, then provide information. So whatever your information is, if it's yes, remember to use the additional information and explain to the officers why it happened. Multiple filer waiver request information. Refer to Part 3, types of waiver, in the specific instructions section of the instruction for an explanation of the filling waivers. Indicate which of the following waivers you are requesting. Multiple filer, no permanent restraining orders, conviction. So in our case, none of these applied, so we left that blank, 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 and blank. Biographic information. So whatever your ethnicity is, you answer it. Ethnicity, select 1. So in our case, it was this. Race, select all applicable boxes. So whatever box is the most similar to you, you would apply. Height, I'm just putting random numbers here, guys. So whatever your information is, you just type that down. This is still for the United States citizen. So pounds, however much you weigh, eye color, whatever it is. Petition statement, contact information, declaration, and signature. Read the penalties section of the Form I-129F instruction before completing this part. Petitioner statement. Select the box for either item number I-1A or 1B if applicable. Select the box for item number 2. I can read and understand English, and I have read the petition, so if you can understand English, then you just select this one. If you do have an interpreter or someone filling out the form for you, then you would just type, click here on B, 1B, and the interpreter name in part 6, read to me every question, instruction, and petition, and my answer to every question. So if no one filled out the form for you, you would just leave that part. Petitioner's signature. Then my request. Petitioner's contact information. So no. Petitioner signature. So here you're just gonna sign your name. It's not gonna let you type it, but make sure you write your signature here with ink. Make sure to sign it, because if you don't sign it, then your form is going to be returned and it's going to be delayed. So make sure to sign, and date of the signature, whatever date is today. So February 5th. And then, oh, sorry, I forgot to fill out this part. I can re-understand English. So again, the U.S. citizen is filling out this part, so I can re-understand English, so you just type that. If your case is this, if you had an interpreter, then just type that. If not, leave it blank. I might request a prepared name in part 7, so in our case, we left that blank. We did it by ourselves. Petitioner's date time, so it would be like the person applying for this petition. Oh, the date time phone number, mobile phone number, and the address, email address, petitioner's declaration certification. Copies of documents I have submitted are extract photocopies of unaltered original documents, and I understand that USAS may require. So make sure, this thing basically says that all the information you're submitting is real, unaltered, and that you're saying the truth. And if you are lying about this, you will get in trouble, so make sure to always be honest about it. And that's it. Sign, the US citizen signs here with ink, the date, and then if you have an interpreter, then you put your interpreter's full name. If you don't understand English, then you're going to hire an interpreter that will fill out this out for you. And if not, then you just leave all this blank, 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 blank. And the additional information are for all those questions where you needed more space. You would just use this last page, and whatever number you needed more information, you would just type down your answer here. And that's it. Sorry for the long video. If you have any questions, please write them down below in the video. I'm sure every case is different, but if I can help you with anything, I'll be happy to do it. So make sure to send me all your questions. Thanks for watching, and I really hope this helped.